Hello, this is an I Am Kitty Hollywood. Now today's review is of a movie that shows just how effective the removal of a single black glove can be. It's Columbia's 1946 steamy jumble of sex, love and hate, Gilda. Produced by Virginia Van Up, directed by Charles Vidor. The cinematography is by Rudolph Mattei. It's based on the story by E.A. Ellington and adapted by Marion Parsonet. The costumes are by Jean-Louis. It stars Rita Hayworth, Glenn Ford and George Macready. It's about, well, that's not really the point. There's stuff, a tungsten cartel, you know, but anyhow, tuxedos, few numbers, a very famous black gown, and heat ensue.
I hate you too, Johnny. I hate you so much that I think I'm going to die from it.
Now, Glenn Ford's performance as a German refugee in the anti-Nazi film in 1941, So Ends Our Night, made him a huge star. He was invited to Roosevelt's birthday bash on the strength of his performance. But this was his first post-war film, and it rocketed him back up into the tops of stardom again. George Macready, who plays Balin Munson, was a stage and a screen actor who, look, was mostly cast as villains, largely due to the scar on his face, which came about as the result of an automobile accident. But he, in fact, actually, quite incidentally, co-owned an art gallery with Vincent Price for a few years in LA. Anyway, but the film belongs to Rita Hayworth.
Gilda, are you decent?
Me? Sure, I'm decent.
She was born Margarita Cancino, and she was her father's dance partner since the age of about 12 in the group The Dancing Cancinos, which worked in LA, Hollywood, and she did eventually catch somebody's eye and was signed. Now, her particular looks led to her largely being cast in exotic type roles, and it wasn't until she dyed her hair red and was encouraged to heighten her hairline via painful electrolysis that she became Rita Hayworth. She's best known for playing screen sirens, but she was a very talented dancer, and she was in a few musicals with Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. Gilda is really the role that she's known best for. In my watching, the character Gilda is a woman who doesn't really know what she wants. All she knows is that she doesn't want to be cold and starving. She and Johnny Farrell, Glenn Ford, have the most extraordinary love-hate relationship. It is filled with violence and venom. You get to the end of the movie, spoilers, and they go off together, and you're left there thinking, oh, good, because you don't necessarily get the sense of a positive outcome. Not at all. Now, it can't have been this obvious to audiences at the time, but there seems to be a strong indication that Farrell and Munson were in a relationship before Gilda came along.
I still think we ought to go home. Do as I tell you. Take Gilda home. I told you once. I expect my little friends to be obedient, Johnny.
Speaking of little friends...
Don't. Wait for me at home, Johnny. I may need both of my little friends tonight.
Okay, Balin.
Farrell is both attracted to and jealous of Gilda, and she delights in tormenting him. She initially comes across as a vengeful gold digger, but really as the film progresses, she becomes more and more a victim and not even remotely deserving of the punishment that is meted out to her in the latter half of the film, despite various licentious comments.
Let's go where we can have some fun.
Like I said?
Exactly like you said. Didn't you hear about me, Gabe? If I'd been a ranch, they would have named me the Bar Nothing.
Really, it's the sort of film that you sit back and watch with your mouth half open. Its sexual politics seems so extraordinary to be something that's on screen in 1946. I mean, the violence of Gilda and Farrell's relationship is full on, and the malevolence of Balin Munson is positively gothic, and that is not even going anywhere down Johnny Farrell's exacting revenge for the way Gilda treated Munson in the first half of the film. I mean, actually, there's one scene where Rita Hayworth broke two of Glenn Ford's teeth. Apparently, she had to slap him a couple of times, and he kept saying, no, come on, go for it, really give it to me. And she did. So he accidentally got what he'd been asking for, but the take made it into the film. Gilda is notable in its producer, Virginia Van Up, and she was one of only 3 women working as producers in Hollywood at the time. Now, she'd been around since the 20s, she'd acted in films at the time, but as time had progressed, she'd worked as a script editor, a writer, a casting agent, a script reader, and a casting director. So she had this really thorough knowledge of how the filmic world worked. She apparently worked extensively on the screenplay for Gilda, and she and Rita Hayworth became very good friends. Ultimately, her working life took second place to her family life, but what an impressive woman. And now, for that scene.
Known as Lou. That's the story that went around, but here's the real.
Rita Hayworth had been a pin-up girl for legions of World War II soldiers who adored her, and her performance of Put the Blame on Mame only solidified her standing as a sex goddess, and rightly so. Now, as we know, women who were classified as sex goddesses always had the happiest personal lives. Rita Hayworth said, "Men fell in love with Gilda, but wakened with me," which makes me feel so sad. Jeez. Now, her dancing was all her own. She was voiced by Anita Ellis, which was an arrangement that actually worked out very well because Anita Ellis was paralysed by stage fright. So there you go. The black satin gown by Jean-Louis was inspired by John Singer Sargent's portrait Madame X, and Rita Hayworth had had a baby a few months before this, and it was designed apparently to hide her more maternal figure. Not that you can tell she looks fabulous. Anyway, there was apparently some sort of harness underneath it which incorporated moulded plastic, and anyway, there was no way that this dress was going to fall down, no matter what you think when you watch it.
The blame on Maine, boys. Put the blame on Maine.
Really, the passion, the desperation, the heartbreak, the acceptance, just all these facets of Gilda just get packaged up into this musical number, and it explodes at you across the screen. So watch Gilda for the relationships, watch it for the numbers, but really just watch it for Rita Hayworth. Gilda, 10 out of 10.